I decided to make this first video a specific song. Not necessarily because this is the greatest worship song of all time. It just happened to be what was sitting here on the music stand, to be honest. And God's been leading me to it a lot in the last few days. But um, I just want to kind of give a big picture overview of the things that we would hope you would learn to understand, and then just to show you what can come out of that. With I'm being very honest here, very little in the way of knowledge and very little in the way of practice time to actually get to the point. Now, to get really comfortable and really good, it takes more time, but to at least get to the point where you can sing a song and lead folks in worship. I'm not going to say it doesn't take time, it does, but once you sort of get past that initial awkwardness that everyone tends to feel, it really can move along much, much faster than you believe initially. I'm going to go ahead and this guitar is tuned to standard, so I will hit that as a basic before I go too far. I call this the first string. It's the highest pitch string and the smallest diameter string on a guitar, and it's generally tuned to an E. It would correspond to, if you know anything about music, the E at the top of the staff, the last space up there, FACE. But we'll get into all of those things later as anybody has interest. There is a pitch right below that that is a B note. The one below that, which we refer to as the third string, it's typically on an acoustic guitar the first one that's actually wrapped and wound. My sorry there, I hit the hit. I keep hitting them both. Habit. That's a G note. So we have an E that's fairly high. We have a B. We have a G. The fourth string up is a D note, and then the fifth string is an A, and then we'll just hit this real quick because we can. This is an E again, but it is a much bigger, fatter string, and the tension on it is such. It's tuned same note, but those two notes are actually two octaves apart. I started saying octave apart, but they're actually two octaves apart. I never even dawned on me until I sat here explaining it to you. Um, so you need a tuner for your guitar. Any kind of guitar will do. Um, this one happens to be a fairly nice acoustic electric that I finally bought when I kind of got serious about doing this kind of stuff in different settings. But to learn on, even an old beat up electric or any kind of acoustic guitar that you can find, for in actual practice though, the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar play different roles in worship. And my advice would be to start out on an acoustic model if that's possible. I'm going to do a little something else that you don't have to do all the time, but I just want to show you where this could go. This is called a capo. This happens to be a fairly well-known brand and version of it, but I'm going to put it on what they call the fourth fret. If I pinch down right here on these strings, I would be fretting all notes on the first fret. Um, this would be another half step up in pitch to go to here. So like by going two frets, it would be a whole step. And then I'd have another half step. And so finally what I've done is I basically, if I were to play all the notes on the strings again and ask you what are the pitches now, this high string is no longer an E. It would now be two whole steps above that. And that would be actually a G sharp. We'll get into that theory a bit later. What this allows you to do is learn relatively few chords, and I'm going to play a little bit of a more basic chord shape here. There are a couple different ways, at least, even in the same position, to play different chords. In the next video, I'll get into what the structure of a chord is, but the bottom line is that you need to learn what a major scale is. You need to learn what parts of the major scale are involved in a chord. And to be honest, just a few shapes of how your hands need to go to play certain chords. And in this case, I'm using what would be called the key of G shapes. We'll be using a G chord, which has, the way I'm playing it, has your first finger not on any of the strings. It has your middle finger actually on the second string down. It has your ring finger on the uppermost string, the lowest pitch on the what is from the capo, the third fret. I'm going to speak about this as though it's from this capo for right now. And then on the same third fret from the capo, I've got my pinky tucked in right there. There are other ways to play this. There is a way that uses all four fingers and adds one note right here with your ring finger actually being on this third fret here. But for now, I'll stick with this one and we can save that other for later. The other chord, and I won't go into great detail here, but it is a C chord. The shape of it there is apparent, but I will go over that in more detail later. And let's see, I'll also use a D chord in this. Yeah, I will need it a time or two. We'll go through how that's laid out and why that makes a D chord later. And then a minor chord, which takes essentially one of the notes in the major chord and changes it to create this sound. This is an E major chord, that's its sound. Okay, it's kind of bright and happy right through there. And then if I make the change that it needs to be made, which is I actually drop one note, a half step, it has that darker sound. A lot of people are aware of that difference between the tone of a major and a minor chord. They both have their place, and we'll get into all that detail later. So if you will follow these lessons through, and in fact, there's two components. You can learn a lot of theory if you pay attention to the lessons, but you can also just practice these very few chord shapes, as I'll go through them in more detail later. And you can actually you can play this song without knowing much musical theory at all, but it will be helpful for your long-term growth if you understand a little bit of where this is all coming from. So this is a song by actually, I think David Crowder probably did it first. It's called "Here's My Heart, Lord." It's been out for a few years, but it uses four chord shapes that can be really handy for us in our future study. So, using it here in this position with the capo on 4. Here's how it goes. Go back to those shapes I told you I would stick with. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. I am found, I am yours, I am loved, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. You are strong, you are sure, you are life, you endure, is true. I almost got lost in there for a minute. It'll happen to you if you really get into worship. Couple things there before I wrap this one up. Using the capo allowed me to sing. It's actually the key that David Crowder sings it in, but if you were trying to sing along with me and you're like, man, that's just a little too high where you went there, well, the capo gives you the ability to learn some basic chord shapes and then move it to a key that's more suitable for the vocalist that you, if it's you or whoever you might be singing with. So it is a very handy tool, I think, for a beginning guitarist, particularly one who plans to really not focus on the guitar totally and to work on their vocals. I think it's a great tool for that and allows you to know relatively few hand positions and yet playing a lot of keys. So it is great for that. There are dynamic issues there you have to learn as the spirit leads. When you get louder, when you get softer, how do you bring the message that the song is trying to get? And so you can get so lost in the mechanics of trying to learn that those things are difficult sometimes to do at first. But you do eventually want to get comfortable enough, and that's another reason I think a capo is a good tool for a person, especially a novice. Musical theory, though, helps a lot. A lot of really great worship songs will use a 4-note chord, which instead of the 3-note chords like I was playing. If you understand the scales, just a basic major scale, minor scale, you can understand a ton of those symbols that are out there. There are things you'll run across on the internet called slash chords, like D over F sharp. You'll see a slash between like a D and an F sharp. The idea of like, where the notes are on the fretboard. When I started, I did not have a grasp of that at all. If you eventually want to play lead guitar, you simply must master the idea of knowing when you grab that note right there that it's a D. And the capo doesn't change that if you're playing up here, but that's a whole other story. So that's kind of a big picture. Everything that I was just doing, dynamics, there's some music theory involved that is helpful to understand. How to make use of the capo so that you're not overworking your hands during your first few months of trying to do some of this stuff. All these basics, I think that illustrates a lot of it really well. And I'll be honest, if you're willing to work at it so that the few chord shapes are comfortable and you can pick a key that is suitable for the song that you would like to sing, there's no reason after a few weeks that you cannot be comfortable performing a song here and there, and eventually in the long term become comfortable enough to be in a leadership role within your local area, your congregation. And I really hope that is my prayer that this website, this YouTube channel, and the other technologies available to communicate will allow me to not only just sit up here in the loft at the house and sing to God, but also along the way take advantage of these resources that have been provided to really equip a lot of people out there to be able to fulfill this role and to understand the critical nature of their own walk with God to being able to do it properly. Didn't have that down right off the bat. But as time has gone by, God has done a lot to teach me about what it is to try to live in His kingdom and bring that to other people, particularly through the opportunities that you have to bring it through music. It is an important part of worship, and that is an important part of our Christian experience. So feel free to actually message me. I assume that when you click on this stuff, there are ways of contacting or whatever through Google Plus or through email or whatever, but I will try to make sure that that's clear on there, how you can do that. But that I'm pretty sure is probably something some of you younger folks know a lot better than I do. But thanks a lot, and I hope to be able to put some more lessons up very shortly. Please request if there's something you would like to see or know. We'll work that in, but I am going to try to follow a pattern that I think actually a lot of piano teachers would find logical, even though I'm not at all a piano guy. That's kind of an inside joke at our local congregation. But I do have a friend who's an excellent piano guy. And if you would require something from that angle, while I don't feel qualified to, show you the instrument specifically, I can certainly, the music theory still applies to any instrument that you would want to try to learn. And even to some extent translates into percussion as you get into rhythm and so forth. So I hope this will be useful. It is my prayer that it will be, and I hope that you will contact me if you're interested in having some specific work done with folks in your local body to try to increase this, particularly in central Ohio, southern Ohio, where I'm located, northern Kentucky. Um, I'm actually in the area near Lucasville, Ohio. No one knows where that is probably unless you happen to be a person from the region. But nevertheless, I would be willing to do a mixture of this as well as coming and helping you with your ministry of music at your location. So God bless, and I hope you'll find this helpful.